All right. Well, thanks for sticking with us. We are doing our 10th episode here, hearing the wisdom of Roger as he shares his experiences on the business side. We've talked about the acquisition of Cal Dutch to Larsen Group. Is there anything else with the Larsen Group that you wanted to share?
Yes, I will tell you that how much did Larsen pay for Cal Dutch? Now, we had 3 plants, and they had me, if you want to look at me as a piece of used equipment, and my boss sold the company for $500,000 in cash and 32,000 shares of Larsen stock at $16 a share. So just think of it, 3 plants, 3 locations for $1 million. Isn't that something? I mean, looking back, the only mistake we made, we should have taken 64,000 shares of Larsen stock because it was the stock turned out to be very good.
That's wild. So, how long was the Larsen Group independent then?
Larsen was a publicly traded company when they bought our company. And they had several stock splits and so on and so forth. And when my boss the treasurer became president, he let me do the production. He took care of the sales and finance. And then I would say to him, I said, Quint, you got to come out to the plants and visit the plants. He said, I don't like to go and take a visit of the plants. I said, we have to take you out there to show them that you don't have horns. He said, okay. I said, I'll pick you up tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. We're going to visit Cedar Grove, Waldo, and another plant. So I would take him into the plant, and he wasn't too happy to do this, but at least the plant people could see the president of the company. And then a couple of weeks later, I said, now we're going to go to Fort Atkinson, and we're going to go to Hortonville, and I'll introduce him to the people. And in that way, he saw all of the plants. The people got to see him, and it worked out okay. And I was active in association activities. I was in the process of becoming president of the Wisconsin Food Processors Association. And then we sold out to Larsen. So I went to the president of Larsen and I said, I'll pull myself out of the running for the president of the association since I'm now a part of. No. He said, we want you to continue. So even though we just became part of Larsen, he let me work through the process of becoming president. And after I was president of the Wisconsin Food Processors, after my term was up, I was automatically put on the board of the National Food Processors Association and became active in waste disposal committee. I gave talks at most of the conventions all over the country on how to treat waste. I appeared at Senate and House hearings in Washington, D.C., pleading our case for proper control standards that we could live with, that was best available and best theoretical and so forth. And we wanted to fight and maintain our position that it's something like gas standards in cars now, when they say you have to have 50 miles a gallon. Well, we wanted to avoid that and have something that we could live with. So in that way, I became active in the association. I traveled all over the country, and I got to know a lot of people, which helped me later on in a subsequent part of my life.
I imagine, depending on weather, there's a bit of cyclicality to canning vegetables. How did you guys handle it when you had a really bad season?
Surprisingly, when you had a good season, the next year the people would plant more acreage than they had sales for, and then the prices would go down. If you have a bad drought season or some hail or something like that, you tended to have a short crop and the prices would go up and you'd turn out as well or better than if you had a good crop. But we didn't want any government controls. I mean, we didn't want the government to come in and tell us how many acres to plant. We self-policed ourselves. If we planted too much, we ended up with product in our warehouse. And when you have product in your warehouse, you don't need any money for it. But with peas and corn, you could carry over product for a year and sell it first out in the next year. So, but we had to control our own destiny on it.
Did you ever have a time when you had to make concessions, either compensation concessions or staffing cutbacks?
Yes. interesting. When I got the Larsen Company, I ended up Larsen, a independent union. They belonged to an independent union, national independent union, and I negotiated the union contracts up at Green Bay. And one time we negotiated, and I had a fishing trip planned for, our contract ended up June 1st. I had a fishing trip planned for Memorial Day. And I foolishly told the union, I said, this is it, our final offer. I'm going on a fishing trip. And I said to my HR guy, I said, you can wrap the thing up. I'm going fishing tomorrow. So I went fishing on Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday. I said to my partner, I said, we got to go home. I said, I just feel that there's something wrong. I thought that he would be able to wrap up the contract, the union degree, and so forth. But I think the union was a little bit disturbed that I went on a fishing trip. Anyhow, we packed up our fishing gear, got in the car, and drove home. And I got home at about 10 o'clock at night on Sunday night. I woke up my wife, or she was awake. She said, the plants are on strike. I said, no, John is going to take care of things. I said, we had everything pretty well negotiated. Well, she said, you probably know more about it than I do, but it was on TV tonight. I said, what'd you say? She said it was on TV that the Larsen workers were all on strike. Oh, man. So I called my HR guy at 10 o'clock at night. I'll see you in the office in an hour. So I took a shower, went to the office, and the union people were coming up to Green Bay. I think I came home Saturday night. They were coming up to Green Bay on Sunday and prepare with their placards, their strike lines, and so forth. We got in touch with the union committee, got them to come up to Green Bay on Friday. We renegotiated, we got an agreement. And when the people came up to get their placards for their strike line, the union committee said we reached an agreement. So we had a strike and we didn't have a strike, but I'll never forget my poor meek wife saying, well, you probably know more about it than we do, but it was on TV today. So we settled the strike, and there wasn't really a strike, but I negotiated many union contracts, and we never had a strike. This is the closest we came to it, but I really invited it by telling them I was going to go fishing. So another lesson you learn. Okay, now my boss was getting ready to retire, skipping over a few years here, and he set us up to go to advanced management training. He had us prepare position descriptions and everything else. He had a well-organized system for our company, and then he went out shopping. He met with Dean Foods, and after negotiation, Dean Foods decided to buy the Larsen Company. Now, at that time, we had $140 million worth of sales. And I was, first of all, Quint, my boss, and I were the only ones that knew about it. And we went back and forth. I didn't even tell my wife until the night we sold. I said, this is when we sold out the Larsen. I told him, I said, we sold out the Larsen Company. And my daughter, who was in 6th grade, she said, I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm not moving to Green Bay. But my other two kids had gone through school. My oldest daughter finished high school while I was driving back and forth. And my youngest daughter did move to Green Bay, and she did real well in school, but I'll never forget, I'm not moving. So we moved to Green Bay in 1970. And then we negotiated with Dean Foods and come to an agreement. And Dean Foods said to my boss, who are we going to get to run the place? And they said, Raj Hubrecht. And he said, well, we want to meet Raj. I had met some of them. Let's go golf. We'll set up a golf deal at Century Golf Course in Warsaw, Wisconsin. And I proved to him that day that I hadn't spent my time on the golf course. So they consummated the deal, and I was named president of the vegetable division of Dean Foods. And they said, grow the vegetable division. So we bought 4 plants in 4 years' time, and When I retired in 1993, we had sales of approaching $500 million. So I went from $350,000 at Waldo to almost 500 million at Green Bay, and I didn't have an MBA, and I really didn't have any food processing, but I had a lot of good people working for me.